Hey everyone, this is Vaneet Pandey, and it's a very special lecture. We are talking about the concept of disability in Shakespeare, primarily in King Lear. Have you ever wondered that the concept of disability can also be studied in various stories? Once I met a student, and he was a kind of student suffering from some issues in the eyes, and we were talking about these things. He called me that I'm temporarily abled. So I thought that maybe this is a kind of uh, how we they that in short I didn't take it that much seriously. He said, "Sir, yes, we are differently abled, and the others, like including me, are temporarily abled." What does that mean? This is a UPSC standard lecture. It takes a lot of time to read, to collect the material, and to analyze. We are not teaching normal basic net or some basic gate or some basic other things. It makes me read a lot. But trust me, I just loved it. The concept of disability in King Lear. King Lear, a great king, and all of a sudden becomes a beggar, a madman. Gloucester, a minister, a powerful man after King Lear, becomes a beggar, a madman, a blind man, deceived by his own son. Edgar, the good man, has to pretend to be mad, lives in the disguise of poor Tom, Tom of Bedlam. But do we talk about the disability which is related to body? King Lear becomes mad, weak, crippled. Gloucester is blind. Edgar is feeling madness. No, there is intellectual disability. Then there is a disability of having reason. King Lear didn't have reason. So there are multiple types of disabilities applied in the story King Lear. And the question is that how does it affect the plot? How does it relate itself to the society, to the masses, to the public? Why should we read the concept, the mindset of disability? Do you know King Lear, who didn't even understand the value of straightforwardness, when his third daughter, Cordelia, she said that I love you as much a daughter is supposed to love her father. Not more than that, not less than that. He didn't understand, using his reason, using his wits, his intellect, that he should respect his daughter for being very trustworthy, for being very truthful. He simply kicked her out. That means he was disabled, having intellect, having reason. And when his two daughters, they are again disabled. Why so? Because these two daughters, they don't respect their father, the virtue of his father, their father. They are all need is money. They are intellectually disabled. But when King Lear is cheated, has been expelled, he runs out, he says, "Oh fool, I'm going to be mad," and goes in the storm, suffering from poverty. Forgive my cough. Suffering from poverty, suffering from helplessness, dependency. You know how sad it is to be dependent, especially in the case of girls. We understand this is India. You're totally dependent. You do not have your own choice. I was reading some book yesterday, and there was a line: "A woman can give birth to a man, but a woman cannot take her decision." Yes, no doubt that's true. This is our society. But the question is that King Lear, the great majestic king, being dependent on others, being poor, being mad, being frantic, suffering from hysteria, he starts understanding the pain of society. This is what we are going to talk about. The king who himself becomes disabled, Gloucester who becomes blind, then only they understand the problems of the poor, the problems of the needy people. They also talk about that why are we like animals? Why are we treated like animals? There are multiple references of beasts, of birds, of flies in King Lear. Shakespeare has beautifully portrayed the tragic elements where the king himself has become a very poor, dependent, disabled guy, and he relates his own pain with others. That is called empathy. He's relating it with others. I have some beautiful lines, some quotes for you. I will read those things. But I'm just taking my time to explain these things to you. See, in the idea of Aristotle, the ideal tragic hero is the one who falls from his high standard. Higher the state, greater the fall that follows. Aristotle, in his ideal tragic concept, he said that a king or a commander, when they fall from the high standards, it becomes a message for all. It becomes painful for people to see a king, the one who was so much strong, had 100 knights in his command, only to serve him, is now a madman. But the idea is how it helps us to understand society in a better way. I'll read it for you. The play's exploration of what it means to be human and what distinguishes human from the other animals has significant implication for disability studies that have not been yet explored. See, King Lear, he is simply exploring life after being poor and mad, disabled. King Lear's exploration of what it means to be human has significant disability studies idea. He is suffering from bodily vulnerability. Bodily vulnerability means technically he's very old, very weak, very, a person who is vulnerable. He is also suffering with the awareness of interdependence. Now he understands what is called to be dependent on his two daughters when these two daughters treated him badly. If you try to understand, like all of you are growing up, our parents, those who are very strong, are getting dependent on us for everything. It is happening everywhere, even in my family. Initially, I used to wonder why my father asked me some basic questions. Bringing something from market, he asked me. He's the one who has given us life. He's the one who has led my family from all the sufferings and poverty. Because now he's having age issues, challenges. He is no more confident on his own decisions. He takes a lot of help. He takes a lot of guidance from us. This is called dependency. They're getting dependent on us. And I suggest you, just be very patient. Because when we were learning as kids, they were very patient for us. Now, we go for some beautiful lines. See, first of all, write down few points. We are simply dealing with the concept of ableism and disability. So those who are able, what is the idea of justice for those who are able, like us? We are temporarily disabled because old age itself is a disability. So right now we are temporarily disabled. But the idea of society, idea of justice, idea of love, idea of romance, everything has been mentioned from the able point of view. Ableism, the ables. How many of you know the love stories of blind people, crippled people, club-footed people? Is there any Bollywood movie? You will say, sir, one or two. Yeah, just one or two out of thousands. We never talk about their fight for justice. We never talk about their issues because it's totally different. We look at them with a kind of pitiful attitude. And this is beautifully explored. See, in many ways, King Lear's treatment of disability is very much embarrassing. He gives a lot of references. He says that we are like animals now. This play, King Lear, it simply intertwines the disability and tragedy. It keeps on connecting it, depicting the journeys of temporarily able bodies becoming disabled. Gloucester is blinded, Lear experiencing madness, Edgar pretending to be madman like a poor Tom, and the fool himself. Fool is the one who is suffering from the lack of reason. Now try to understand. In the story, he is the fool. Actually, he is the philosopher. So audience know that he is the philosopher. But the fool in the story is a fool. He is suffering from the lack of reason, the lack of knowledge. Then the people like Goneril, Regan, they do not have figurative approach, sights, future, reason. They have no understanding. They don't know that they are cheating their own father. They are mentally crippled. They are crippled from their thoughts morally crippled, no moral nature. Edmund, plotting against his own father, getting him blind, seducing women, is morally crippled. He's also suffering from this kind of disability. And then, see, Gloucester's own blindness, it has been taken as a kind of punishment. When Edgar meets him, he says in the disguise that don't worry, your blindness is simply the retribution, the punishment of your wrongdoings. So why we are taking disability as a kind of punishment? And if we have this attitude, then you cannot be good to anyone, because anybody who is disabled and is in front of you, you will always feel that he is suffering because of his acts. Simply we have been taught like that. Our religious scriptures, our parents, our societies, they have taught that if you do bad to people, the bad will come to you, and the bad got related to disability. There are multiple speeches where King Lear, he exposes the humans being fundamental reliance on things. We are dependent on things, animals, and each other. These definitions of what it means to be human, King Lear unsettles the construct of the able body and their view for humanity. Lear, he is shifting from power to powerlessness, from a king to a madman. Shifting from power to powerlessness. Then he starts voicing for the others, other humans. He talks about the poor people because now he is poor. जब हम गरीब थे, sorry to switch in Hindi, we used to talk about poor people. When we became rich, we stopped talking about poor people. Hope you understand what I mean to say. Because if you're not suffering from those things, you don't talk about those things. And King Lear now understands that what it feels like to be a king, or what it feels like to be a poor, needy man. In other Shakespearean plays, in Macbeth, for few scenes, Lady Macbeth is presented as suffering from intellectual disability. Lady Macbeth cleaning her hands, washing her hands again and again, seeing in the mirror, talking about the blood she has on her hands. Then we have Malvolio in Twelfth Night, suffering from a kind of psychological issue where he thinks he is being loved by the Queen Olivia, but this is not. Then Othello, a kind of loss of moral intellect. He doesn't know that he should trust his wife. Then there are some other plays also where we either have the fools. So Shakespeare has technically portrayed multiple fools, multiple eccentric characters like Shylock and others, and they are all suffering from some kind of disability. And then they take the references of the beast. The famous line of Gloucester, he says, as flies to the wanton boys, we are to the god. As flies means simple bees and butterflies. So as flies, the bees, the butterflies, as flies to the wanton boys, we are to the god, and they kill us for their sport. So we are nothing in front of God. Just like the young, the young kids who keep playing outside in the garden, they kill the flies for fun. It's the God. God is doing the same thing with us. That's how they have taken references. Now I'll read some basic quotations for you. It will help you to write down a few points. I'm sorry for my coughing. Seems somebody has cursed me. Though I don't believe in these things, but seems somebody has cursed me. Taken a lot of medicines. So, friends, the first thing that you have to write down is King Lear dramatizes human beings' dependence on shelter, material things, and each other by staging homelessness. Both King Lear and the Duke of Gloucester fall from extreme privilege to extreme deprivation. Deprivation means like you're deprived of things. You have nothing in the play. Sorry. King Lear makes the privileged experience homelessness. That's also a theme. If our parents read, all of you, like, you must be watching Bollywood movies. What happens when your parents watch a Bollywood movie in Hindi, Bagban? So Bagma is a movie where there is a healthy family living together happily. But then when they get retired, parents get retired, they find out that all of their sons are actually very selfish and they don't want to serve their parents. So when our family watches it, it's a kind of emotional thing, because after watching Bagba, they start staring at you. Are you going to be the same? So when you read King Lear, you'll understand what is going to be, what kind of life is going to be there after you become old and your kids prove to be one of the Gonerils and one of the Regans. So that's the reference here. The next point that you have to understand is King Lear himself talks about poor Tom and calls him a thing just because poor Tom looks like a madman, a beggar. So even disability doesn't give you the chance to be one of those humans. They look at you with empathy, they look at you with sympathy, and they make you feel that you're unwanted and you're different, you're special. You know, a lot of people with disability, they say, sir, we don't need any affection, any sympathy. Just take us normally, just like we are. Okay? And when King Lear is suffering from all the issues, see, what does he say? Lear's madness coincides with the systematic removal of the props that support his identity. Within the first two acts of the play, he loses his political power, family relationship, retinue, and a place to sleep. At the end of Act 2, Regan and Goneril discuss reducing the number of knights attending Lear. Rapidly whittling, WHITTLING, whittling the number of followers that they will allow from 100 to 50 to 25 to 10 to 5 before Regan asks, what need one? Why does he need? Remember what happens when King Lear divides his property in these two daughters. He simply says that I will keep 100 knights with me. But then daughters start reducing that why an old man needs 100 knights. So they say, okay, 50, then 25, then 10, the 5. And then Regan says, why does he even need anything? Lear, faced with the loss of his knights and the loss of special position and filial obedience, he responds with the definition of what it means to be human. And there is a beautiful line. Please write this line. O reason, not the need. Our bestest beggars are in the poorest thing, superfluous. Allow not nature more than nature needs. Man's life is cheap at beast. He says man's life is just like the animal life. Nobody respects it. We have some other lines where Lear talks about the poor people, needy people. Lear's loss of things and his experience in the storm profoundly changes his worldview. While Lear's reason, not the need, he says, poor, naked, wretches, whereas, where so you are, the bide, the pelting of the pitiless storm, how shall your houseless heads and unfed sides? I'll arrange the PDF for you so that you can write down all the lines, but do not read everything because this is not a PhD topic. Then we have some lines where, just like King Lear, Gloucester also talks about it. Like King Lear, when he experiences madness, Gloucester, he has become blind. Edgar has lost his family, status, home. It's Edgar who is poor Tom. He is feigning to be mad. They talk about, body, pain, sufferings. And King Lear says, is man no more than this? Consider him well. Thou owest the worm no silk, the beast no hide, the sheep no wool, the cat no perfume. There is three on our sophisticated. Thou art the thing itself. Unaccommodated men. An accommodated man is no more but such a poor. These are the references. Make sure you read, revise. If they ask you a very different kind of question, special reading of King Lear, you are going to rock in the exam. Thank you so much. Stay connected. God bless you.